there, Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing their sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started. Hey friend, it's Courtney, and today's episode is a little bit different. You're going to hear a conversation from when I was a guest on the Busy Vibrant Mom podcast with my friend and host, Michelle Byrd. Michelle helps Christian working moms save time, find balance, and build a life they actually enjoy. So you can see why we hit it off immediately. In this interview, we get into so many of the things that I talk about in my time together with you. Things like what work-life balance really looks like in real life, or how to get clear on your values so you can finally prioritize what matters most, and why so many moms are exhausted and resentful from carrying the invisible load at home and having misaligned expectations with their partners, or how to rethink your to-do list, your boundaries, and guilt around work and taking care of yourself. Finally, right? Okay, so grab your lukewarm coffee, take a deep breath, and let this one meet you where you are today. Here's my interview with Michelle Byrd, featured on the Busy Vibrant Mom podcast.
All right, friends, parenting is difficult. Let's just say that, right? Parenting, managing a job on top of that, balancing it all can definitely be overwhelming. But that is exactly why I wanted to introduce you to our guest, Courtney Cecil. Courtney and I connected when we were both speakers at the Busy Moms Blueprint Summit. It was this last spring. Courtney lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, with her husband and two boys. In addition to serving as the head of culture at a Fortune 50, she is also a speaker and the founder of Working Moms Movement, where she coaches on work-life balance to help parents reclaim their control and free time so that they can be their best for their families and at their job without losing themselves in the process. That's definitely what we all want to do, right? So pull up a chair and grab your coffee as Courtney and I talk about work-life balance, prioritizing and knowing what you value specifically, and how to manage boundaries as a busy working mom. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Michelle, it is my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
Tell us a little bit how you got involved in what you're doing and how you help moms and all the things.
Yeah, so I am the founder of a company called Working Moms Movement, and I specifically help moms or parents in general, for that matter, build an infrastructure, what I call a life management system, into their life. So that way they can achieve true sustainable work-life balance. So they can be present, so they can actually work out in the morning, so they can put their kids down at night and not be thinking and consumed by their to-do list. And all of that was shaped somewhat by my corporate roles. So in addition to that, I also lead culture at a Fortune 50. And culture is all about the alignment of yourself with an organization and what the organization values. And my business and the way that I help coach and teach is somewhat similar, because Michelle, what you value is probably different than what I value, and the same with all of your listeners. We each have something, even if it's generally similar, that is uniquely us, uniquely our family, and more tightly you are aligned with those value systems, the more likely you are to optimize your life and to really maximize what it is you do and how you do it. So it is in the interest of, I just used to mentor unofficially tons and tons of people in that type of thinking, that eventually it spawned this entire business of how can I formalize the infrastructure and the methodology that I go through to help women achieve that sense of balance. And that balance really is going to only be achieved if you're clear on your values, because what you value influences what you prioritize, and what you prioritize influences how we expend our resources, our time, our money, and our energy resources. So I spend a lot of my free time digging and pouring into that business and helping as many moms as possible. But I also, again, have two boys, as you said. I am in a very healthy marriage that I pour a lot into, and still man in that corporate role, like working for the man.
Yeah, you're balancing everything. But I love that you are helping more moms realize what are they prioritizing, and does that align with what they're valuing, and does that align with where they're putting their time? Does that align with how they want their life to look? Right.
Right, exactly. Particularly like Michelle, when I think about some of what you value that you share very openly to other people, such as your faith, that's a core value. But a lot of people, if I talk to a mom, a room full of moms and say, do you know what you value? A lot of them will like 50% of them will kind of hee-haw and acknowledge that there might be some truth to it. But if I say, how many of you value family? Essentially every arm shoots up. But the problem is that doesn't tell you anything. You might value family or you might value faith, but until you really double click on what that means for you, it's hard to really understand how it might manifest in your life and how it needs to really be present. So, as an example, a lot of people might say, I value family. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you really mean there? Do you mean that you value creating a culture of integrity and purpose with your kids? Do you mean that you value education and maximizing their ability to stand on their own 2 feet and to be able to economically contribute as they become adults? Do you mean creating a culture of service, whether that be service to faith or service to community? Or do you mean the ability to do things together and to be there with each other around a dinner table every night? So family and what you really mean when you unpack that can mean this, like it might be all in the interest of family, but your idea of the creation of what you want your family dynamic to look like and what it is that you value in your parenting principles will drive a lot of decisions that might impact the amount you work, the type of jobs you take, the amount of time that you spend as a family, as a like a nuclear family versus your extended family. Like, all of those values, those like double click values can really show up very differently for different people. And it's important understanding that double click to inform really the expenditure of your energy and time and money.
Right. So you're getting down to the details of what do you really mean? Almost like a little kid when they ask why, of like, why
Yes.
do you
Yes.
like families? And then why are your values this? And why? So you can string them along to, okay, what is it really that you are after?
Exactly. So my background's in industrial and systems engineering. My husband and I actually met in class, and that's like part and parcel to my program and that I take women through. It's called the life management system. And that system word comes from the industrial and systems engineering, which is essentially how you make things more efficient and how you make them more effective. And in the IE space, while you all might not have heard of industrial and systems engineering, perhaps you've heard about the certification black belt. I mean, a Six Sigma. So I'm a Six Sigma black belt, and that's essentially like a quantitative form of efficiency and effectiveness improvement. But in the Six Sigma space, we have something that we call the 7 whys. And that is essentially saying, like, it's the double click, Michelle, and like, but why, but why, but why, but why? And that is truly a technique that we learn in school, is like the 7 why.
I love that. Yeah, because it's true. There's a lot of moms, as you said, in a whole room who would raise their hand and say, yes, family is important to me. Yes, I value that. Yes, definitely. But then when you ask them exactly what, is it time? Is it, as you said, all these other different things? Which area are you leading to? It's like it's a hub. And then which little pathway are you coming off and why? And so then you can build, I'm assuming more of your life and your decisions around exactly what you want to achieve.
Exactly. So think about it. I mean, that the same type of logic applies to almost anything. Think about faith. Okay, what do you really desire in faith? Is it you have a close relationship with the church? Is it that you lead a integrity-based life that aligns with the scripture? Is it that you like a lot of double clicks there? The same thing with your career. Okay, what do you value about your career? Do you value learning? Do you value growing? Do you value compensation? Do you value brand and your title? Like there's so many things beneath that. And until you really understand that double click, it's really hard for you to structure an aligned life that is actually serving you to maximize your impact in the world, and most especially your ability to remain aligned as a family unit and parent consistently. So what I often see when I work with clients is that when we start to go through these exercises, they're like, oh man, like I had no idea that my partner and I are so misaligned on some of these core critical decisions. So it's no wonder we're tripping over each other. I mean, like getting clear on that and getting aligned with your partner on that can honestly do a lot of good to start to remove some of the obstacles that you otherwise might be facing in life.
That's huge because there's so many big things that you ask or you are sure you're on the same page with before you get married, right? And then, as you said, those nitty gritty, well, yes, I value work, but my family did it this way, or
Mm-hmm.
I came from this background, or this is what I emphasize with work. That's slightly different than the other person.
Yep, exactly.
So that's so good. Do you often have like, as you said, your system? Is that a class? Is that kind of worksheets that people like work through, or how do you get them to that level?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So I do have a recorded course with a bunch of worksheets that facilitate that, but it is, I would say, probably 90% what I have on paper. So both the recorded sessions that I have and the workbooks. But then the other 10% is my coaching layered into that. But it's not something that I have them do alone. It's something that I have them do with their partner because it is through the self exploration that they start to unpack some of the other tripping points that they might have as a family unit that they didn't realize are actually kind of root cause why they are running an inefficient or ineffective home. And I don't mean that in a toxic way as much as I mean like they're wasting time and they have added stressors that they just didn't interpret as being caused by misalignment of values. Like most moms have a tendency to think, oh, I'll just layer in this like time hack and it'll solve for everything. But the best systems in the world, if they're not built on an aligned foundation, will fall flat. So we start with that foundation. And I always tell the moms that I work with, unless I'm doing a more executive level, like concierge package for somebody where I'm really working one-on-one. Most of the time, I don't work with a couple. I work directly with the women through my group coaching program. But at the same time, it's like it doubles up as sometimes as couples therapy because the moms are I'm working with them and I'm like, okay, I need you to have this type of conversation with your husband based on this type of feedback you just gave me on like how the conversations are going. So I work through the mom to try to get them aligned in order for us to layer in those next level systems, which are more like routine driven and delegation and distribution of tasks between them and outsourcing and that sort of thing. But in order to get there, I start them at the very beginning.
Yeah, that's huge. Because as we just talked about, like your why, that really tiny one, 7 layers deep, way down there is going to then determine, like, okay, well, what about this question? And what about this question that we have? And how are we going to spend our money? And how are we going to take trips? And how are we going to travel? And what do we value? All those other decisions that we have to make. So many all come from, as you said, what we value.
You know what? Sorry to interrupt,
Oh,
Michelle, but what you also just unlocked for me, again, I lead culture as my day job, but why is also an analogy of our purpose. So one of the other things that I have these families do is get really clear on their purpose, get clear on their mission, get clear on their vision as a family, because that also starts to unpack things. So as an example, our mission as a family is to experience the world. And that's really important to me because I grew up in a very sheltered part of the country. I was not exposed to much diversity. Said and did some very embarrassing, ignorant things, like truly unintentionally hurtful to people because I didn't know any better. But I also have gotten to come on the backside of that. And it's really important to me that my boys experience a more complete education than I got because of that. So doing that double click, like truly in corporate America, we call your why your purpose. Like that why is your purpose statement. So it's kind of a play on words what you said. And I don't even know if you meant to do that intentionally, but it's not just the 7 whys of double clicking on like, but why? Like it really is also your purpose.
yeah. Well, not intentional, but it rolls along with what.
Yeah, it was quite well played.
Well, I have 2 questions. So one is, what are some things that you tend to see couples come up against? Like, are there typical themes that they need to work on drilling down, or are there kind of different ones that you find sporadically?
I'd say it's very dependent on the couple, but more often than not, there are things they're not aligned on. So it might be something like, here's a real life example. I have a client who actually I have a couple clients whose spouses do very little around the house. They are not equal partners as it relates to domestic labor. In their mind, they unapologetically think it's a woman's task. But when the women are also working, and they're working outside the home for an income and are unavailable 40 hours a week, like, you know, or 40 to 50, just like their husbands are, that's really hard to carry it all on your shoulders. But when we start to unpack that, a lot of the reason why is because their value is different. They value being cared for and being the caretaker. They want to be cared for domestically, and they want to be the caretaker as it relates to finances. So there is just a little bit of friction between the fact that their wife is working and the fact that they expect her to be doing the things for them. And often that stems from the experience they had growing up, where their mom was the one who stayed at home taking care of them. That's just the way you do life. So oftentimes it's like a historical bias that is being introduced into the marriage that they've never fully unpacked. Sometimes, though, it's also just that they've never had the honest conversation with each other to say, listen, hey, husband, I really need you to step up. Like, I am carrying the baggage solely on my shoulders. I can't do it anymore. But the wife's not saying that. On the flip side, the husband's never saying, listen, this is what I really value. I value getting to pour my heart and soul into my job and know I'm maximizing my earning potential. And then I want to come home and turn off my brain and like turn off my body and not physically have to lift another finger. And there are ways that we can coach to either have them meet in the middle, or that we can have them do life differently and actually execute their domestic workload differently in order to achieve that, if that's what they believe is right for them. But until you have that conversation, you don't realize how far misaligned you are. And that's a handicap. If you never have the direct conversation, then all you're doing is continuing to row in opposite directions as opposed to rowing together as a family. And then that harbors resentment. Like, that's where resentment and chippiness around your marriage grows, because you both aren't being served, and you don't realize and don't have the same empathy on why you all are living in two separate realities.
Right. And that's huge because, as you were saying, like, you can speak to that and help them have a better relationship if they both want to be part of that, or if they want to swing to one side or the other, but they have to be together in that boat. They can't be one and then the other, because as you said, you're rowing in different directions, but you may never have noticed. And then that creates that wedge, and it just gets stronger and stronger over time of, he never does anything around the house, and you build up resentment, and he's thinking she's always nagging me to do stuff. What is her problem? So back and forth and back and forth.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can see where that's huge of helping your clients and people with this little thing that it seems like, oh, this is just the problem, but you have to dig down.
It's the layers.
What do
Yeah,
you
you know what? When we were going through pre-Cana, when we were first getting married, the pastor that was working with us said to us, you have to understand that your marriage will never be 50-50. And he's not wrong, but I think that actually applies to different parts of our life as well. So while the majority of my clients tend to be working moms, I say the same thing with work. Like, work's never going to be 50-50. There will be some weeks where you get to cakewalk a little bit and they'll be giving more to you. And there's some weeks that you'll be giving more to the job. Same with any friendship. No friendship is going to be equal 50-50 either. And that very much exists in the marriage. But the problem is, until you feel seen and heard, you are likely to be in a place of resentment because you don't feel seen and heard. It's harder to empathize with somebody if you don't understand why something is important to them and why you value it. So being able to create space to have those intentional conversations doesn't just create a healthier marriage. It is truly the foundation to creating a more efficient and effective life because you will all of a sudden start to be rowing in the same direction.
Right. And then you can be on the same page as like, okay, if this is what we've decided, let's then make these other decisions.
Exactly. And think about your consistency showing up as parents too. It allows you to be at your best as a family unit for your kids as well.
So true. So true. And to connect that bond closer so that when the kids are not there and then it's just the two of you and you don't have as many of these decisions, that you already have built that, as you said, foundation
Yep.
versus here we are, we have no kids. Why are we connected anymore? With that
Exactly.
resentment and all the things that have kind of pulled you in different directions.
Right. Exactly.
Now, what are some common kind of work-life balances? We taught touched on work-life balance a little, but what are some mistakes that moms can't usually make and might want to avoid?
Yeah. I mean, well, let's start with the value thing. Because I think women as a whole tend to say yes to things that aren't hell yeses. And if something's not a hell yes in your life, you probably shouldn't be doing it at this stage. Like there might be a time when you're first out of college, or there might be a time when you're closer to retirement that you just have more capacity. But at this stage in life, when you have young kids, unfortunately, our careers are peaking at the same time as our commitments are in our personal life. And there, because of that convergence, you really do have to make choices. Like a priority, just like a strategy, inherently has winners and losers. Like a good strategy means you're going to have to place your bet somewhere, and something you're going to have to make more of a priority than the other. And when something is a priority, it inherently means that there's something else in that list that you care a little bit less about. So unless something is a hell yes, where you know it's the right thing for you, you probably should question whether or not you say yes to doing it. So most of us are so tempted by the shiny objects, whether that be volunteering to be class parent because you get to see your kids more, which I get, or whether that be at work volunteering for the special project because it's sexy and fun and aligns with the kind of work you really want to do. Those are all extra things. So they're adding more to your plate that might not be aligned with what your actual priorities are. So I think it's really important to protect what you say yes to, and that's going to help. The other thing, the big thing, and the thing that I personally suffer from and continue to suffer from and keep getting better at every day, though, is perfectionism. Like I always say that I'm a recovering perfectionist. We have a much easier time controlling things before we become parents. And as any of your listeners know, assuming that 99% of them are also parents, your ability to control things look a little bit different when those little animals are doing whatever they want.
So true.
It's, oh my gosh. So I think, becoming a parent inherently forces us to relax our standards in some way, shape, or form. But at work, that tends to be hard to let go of because we know what good looks like for us. We know what we're capable of. And because we know what we're capable of, we want to continue pushing ourselves to be that, whatever that level of good is. And I think it's really important for us to relax our standards because that inherently also contributes to improving work-life balance. And I think part of that is delegating. Like a lot of people are accustomed to delegating at work, and even at work, it's hard because you end up having to let go of your standards. You have to let go of control. So as hard as that skill is to form at work, it's that much harder of a skill to learn at home, whether that be letting your partner take on something, letting your kids take on something, or outsourcing outside the home. It's like that is a very hard skill for a lot of people. It's very uncomfortable, but I would tell the women I work with, it's important that you do delegate at least to your kids because that's a life skill you're teaching them. And it's so much better for them to learn now under your care while you can help elevate them to be at their best than for them to learn those skills and kind of fall flat when they're on their own. So I think those are probably the bigger, a lot of people struggle. You probably spend a lot of time on this yourself, Michelle, around putting first things first, like really putting the priorities at the front end. I think that's a common mistake. I think that a lot of people think of boundaries as hard and fast rules as opposed to boundaries being something that you honor like a social contract that you honor. It's less about it being a perfect 9 to 5 and more about it being about what you all agree on that boundary needs to look like. So I think there's a lot of boundary work that women have the opportunity to fix as well, in the way that they treat boundaries as a whole. But what I find is that work-life balance is often not as much about how busy work is or how busy home is. It's more about some of these other fundamental life skills that we just haven't yet developed. The muscle's really not there yet.
I love that because you're right. There are a lot of different muscles as parents that we are called to somehow suddenly, stretch, and we're challenged, and we can't just do everything on our own. We don't have the time and the capacity. So we are forced to let go, and we're often not in control of our day, right? Unless you are at work, physically away from home, especially if you have little ones and you're trying to get out the door. How many times something goes wrong right before you're trying to get out the door and there's nothing you could do? You couldn't have planned for it. You just have to kind of roll with it. So there's so many things. I love how you put it of parenting does make you let go of control and be able to kind of face that of what are you going to do?
It's humbling too, isn't it? Like you might be the most put together person, and then when your 3-year-old is like flopping on the floor in a tantrum, you're like, okay, well, you know what? It happens to the best of us. Their parenting is just a very humbling experience.
So humbling.
But I'm sure, you know what? To be real, I'm sure that our parents would say the same thing about us
Oh,
when
yeah.
we were that age. Like, if I want to be so careful about bringing up too much with my mom, because the last thing I want most of the time is her being like, yep, I know a little something about that.
I think all of our parents do. And when we become parents, there's lots of memes of things of like you call your parents and like, I'm so sorry. In general, I'm so sorry for everything.
Yeah, just what are you sorry about? All the things.
Yeah, it is huge. Like just to take the time to teach our kids more and more, knowing that they need to be more independent and they need to have a good roof to be able to learn these things rather than, okay, you're done. And hopefully you know how to do these things. Really take the time to kind of go through them. I know I love to do more kind of teaching over the summer where you have more time, you have more energy, you're not racing off to things. Kids aren't exhausted with homework and school of like, hey, you can take on some of these other extra things because now I need to work and you're not at school.
What a great point, Michelle. That really, summer is a great training ground for us to really enable our kids to be more self-sufficient and to be able to take a bigger role during the school year. But it gives you a full pressure-free couple months to really test drive some of what you want them to take on.
Definitely. And there's there's less stress. There's
Mhm.
less added, like you don't have to get out the door often to get to something. So you can take your time. You don't need to have dinner right at this time so that you can get to this other activity. It's just summer is a different animal. Everything's a little bit more relaxed. So you have that time to take longer to teach them because we always know it takes longer to have them do it and to teach them and to walk through it.
Mhm.
Having just that relaxes, I know it relaxes me a little bit more and I'm more at peace and I can kind of roll with things versus, okay, we got to get this finished. We got to get to this place.
Yeah, I call it breathing room. There are a couple clients that in particular that I've worked with that I've focused a lot on that breathing room. They have bigger families, normally 3 or more kids. So life is inherently more chaotic. The more bodies you add, I mean, you would know this as a mom of 3 yourself, Michelle, but that breathing room is critical. Now, I would not say the breathing room exists more for us in summer. It is the exact opposite because right now we're blessed enough to have the bus pick them up and be able to drop them off when we don't have activities. But during the summer, we have them in summer camps where we're having to be the ones to commute them back and forth every time. And those camps will give you like a 15-minute pickup window so it's just like everything feels more suffocating and tight. But I can appreciate that my circumstance is probably not everybody's circumstance. And for the most part, y'all are enjoying summer a little bit more than I am.
It all just depends, right? And some people I know, yeah, use the bus during the week or during the school year. We have 2 different schools that we commute to and 3 kids, and probably next year in the fall we'll have them on 3 different sports teams. So
Oh,
it gets, increasingly more like a small circus. but you just know, okay, fall is going to be really busy. And then you start reeling back, okay, what kind of things can we do in the summer? Because that's not as busy, but fall is, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So it's all that thinking forward and kind of thinking through things. Now, as we kind of move through this, I was thinking, how can moms stop feeling guilty for prioritizing work and themselves? I think especially this comes into play over kind of the summer where you might still need to get stuff done, but then kids are home and all of a sudden you have more competing things for your time.
Yeah, I would say like a lot of this would go back to the values once again. Because when you're clear on your values, it helps you alleviate a lot of existing guilt and why you're doing something. So, for example, if one of your values is health, then you are going to be more likely to prioritize going to the gym to work out because you know not only is it important for you, but you're setting an example for your kids and some around something that you believe is inherently very important. If you are wanting to take time to go visit girlfriends and go out to dinner with them, you are saying to your kids, I value quality relationships. And quality relationships take work. And in order to have good friends, I have to be a good friend. So if you frame the conversation for your kids to explain why you're doing something, there's a life lesson in that. So not only are you getting to prioritize yourself, you're getting to parent through example and help them absorb whatever it is that you believe is an important life principle that you are clearly living by. So much of the guilt tends to be that I experience tends to be wrapped around, once again, the lack of clarity around values. Because if you're not able to articulate that, you're not able to translate it to a parenting moment. But when you are clear on that, you can translate it to a parenting moment, and that's freeing for a lot of parents. The other thing for a lot of people is comparison theory. Like a lot of moms are constantly comparing themselves to other people. And that's also and if you were living for somebody else, you're not living for yourself. Because what once again, Michelle, like what you value is very different than me and then my neighbor and the person across the street. Like it's just I don't need or desire some of the things they do. And it's not that their needs or desires are wrong. They're just different. So, as an example, my next door neighbor, who I'm very dear friends with, she is on like her fourth car since we moved in 8 years ago. Meanwhile, I'm driving a 2013 with 170,000 miles. I don't need a new car. I don't want a new car. Like, would I want one? Sure. Like, I would love to be driving around in a new car, but I don't value that as much as taking a trip with my boys, or I don't value that as much as investing in this business in hopes that I can create a need for moms that really makes a difference for them. So because I'm clear on the fact that I value this one thing or these couple things, it allows me to get rid of all that noise that otherwise would be tempting for me to compare. So it's the comparison thing causes a guilt for a lot of people, a lot of moms. And I think that especially shows up when they work. So how much of your audience is in a career versus how many stay at home?
I'd say a majority are in a career or have taken on some role while the kids are in school, whether that
Okay.
be extra, time donated to different, organizations, a full-time job.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. I think a lot of my conversations with working moms, I would actually say 70% of them, when I ask, I'm very active in my DM. So my account on Instagram is at Working Moms Movement. And I'm super active in my DMs. And I always ask somebody new that I connect with, what do you believe is your biggest challenge in balancing it all? And I would say 70% of them say guilt. And I think some of that guilt is certainly aligned with what I just talked about on the misalignment of values. Some of it is that they are focusing on quantity over quality. So they're seeing their stay-at-home mom friends that are doing all the things and like able to do all the things. But at the same time, they're missing the point that most of those hours spent with their kids are on transactional care-based needs. It's on changing the diapers, on prepping the lunches. It's on all of the more mechanical stuff that doesn't actually translate to quality present time together. So part of it's that. And the other part of that dialogue is they're not really clear. They're not often clear on why they work. And we are not clear on why you're working and how it fuels you and what bigger purpose it serves in your life. It's hard to appreciate the importance it has relative to your family dynamics. And people will work for a lot of different reasons. It could be certainly money, and the financial freedom is part of it, but socialization and the greater impact and the ability to have a more balanced marriage, the example that it sets for your kids, the ability to be more patient as a parent, the ability to outsource things that don't bring you joy. There are just so many reasons that women work, but we don't take the time to often put a wrapper around how we describe that. And unless we can describe it for ourselves and really own those reasons for ourselves, it will constantly leave us in this tug of war of, well, maybe, if I got to stay at home, I'd get more time with the kids. Yeah, you might get more time with the kids, but is it going to be quality time? Right now, because I work, I can afford to outsource things that I wouldn't if I stayed at home. So then I have to decide, do I want to be able to stay at home and get more time? Not have to pay for daycare or not have to have somebody else raise my kids, which is often, it's a valid narrative. Or would I prefer to work during the day, allow my kids to be socialized, allow my kids to have all these other opportunities, and then pay somebody else to do this other junk around my house, like laundry that I don't want to do? Because I don't know. If anybody out there enjoys laundry, like, what is your trick? I never enjoy laundry. So, like, that's something I'm going to get rid of. And that way, by outsourcing to pay somebody else to do it, get to enjoy my kids at night instead of doing laundry. So I think that there are different narratives for every person, but the clearer you are on why you do something, Michelle, it's going right back to the why. The clearer you are on your why, like it just frees you from that guilt.
Yeah, I think that's huge because it's often our society and what we see and what we're getting inputs of is often you have to do more. And these moms are having such a great time at home with their kids, but you don't see half the time when they're screaming on the floor and the mom really doesn't really want to be there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the patience, your patience when you take a break during, and I'm not trying to advocate for women working if it's not for them, but I know I'm a better mom because when I come back, especially when my boys were little, they're 8 and 9 now, but my youngest man, he could throw an epic tantrum and he did that flop thing on the floor where he's like throwing his body. He could do it for a full hour and not stop. After an hour, I'd be like, oh, maybe I should go save the soul now. Maybe I should like go give him a bear hug and like calm him down. But I couldn't deal with that all day long. There's no way.
You have to have so much patience to
Yes.
be able to pivot all day and energy to hold their attention and keep them moving and keep things under control and not distraction and, screaming and all the things.
Yep.
When mine were small and breaking down at around lunchtime and screaming that they didn't want peanut butter and jelly or, I remember one sitting underneath the table screaming, I don't want to eat pizza.
Oh gosh, pizza the enemy.
I texted my husband like a picture of him and said, just FYI, this is what you're coming home to. Just
Yeah.
so you're on the same page. It takes a special rhythm, I think. And once you can find your rhythm, it's a little easier, but there are hard days.
Very much so. I mean, parenting as a whole we're all just, it's funny too, because we are really just making it up as we go. Our kids think we know all sometimes. Like now yours are at the age, Michelle, they're probably doubting you, but like the little ones still think your parents know everything. It's like, no, man, I'm hacking it every day. This is my first go at it too.
Yeah, right now I have to get mine. So the main way to bribe them is food. So I bring snacks and then I'm like, I gave you a snack or I paid for us to go to Starbucks or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You have to talk to me and tell me about your day.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
But yes, I think that's so huge though, just to not look at everybody else in a comparison because you get so much mom guilt and other things just other emotions that you don't need. Like everybody has a different story. Everybody's dealing with different things. Everybody has different values, as you said. Everybody is managing their time a little bit differently. And as we go back to the very beginning, like they're valuing different things. They're prioritizing different things. And then the more that you're just looking on the outside, you're not really seeing What is it that they're prioritizing? And I'm prioritizing something different. So that's why my life looks a little different and my choices look different. And that's okay.
That's it. That's it. It's like I can completely appreciate why my neighbor loves her new cars. They are a lot sexier than mine and smell delicious and are a lot of fun, but she's also not traveling like I am. You know, we're all putting our bets where it makes sense for us and what it is we value. And I think almost everything that it's hard for me not to take an answer back to that, even when I'm trying, because it is so paramount to our decision making.
Yeah. So huge. I think it gives you so many more negative emotions as looking at all that and just constantly with that push and pull of I
Yep.
should be doing this. Oh, I'm not doing this.
Yep.
It just wears on you.
Yep.
As we kind of like wrap it up, is there anything else you're really thinking our listeners need to know? They're busy moms trying to balance all these things. What kind of things can we give them practically that they can kind of take away and do?
I like that question a lot, Michelle. I think that one of the biggest mistakes moms make that can really help them simplify is getting clear on their to-do list. And what I mean by that is not how you manage your to-do list. That you probably do a lot of that type of coaching. It's more on recognizing what an actual to-do list is. Because so often we inflate our to our wish list and call it a to-do list. But your wish list items are things like organizing your family pictures from your vacation. Yeah, you want to get it done. It's going to feel really good when it does. But guess what? You can go to sleep tonight and actually let that go because it's not going to matter if you don't get it done. So an actual to-do list, like an actual to-do list, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that needs to get done. Focus on that stuff. Don't focus on the stuff you wish you got done because so often, it goes back to where we started. So often women put this pressure on themselves to be perfect and to get all the things done and think that everybody else is also getting all the things done. Well, I'm telling you, they're not. They're either not getting things done, things are slipping through the cracks, or they've got a whole lot of help. But part of the reason that we put that pressure on ourselves is that we inflate this to-do list of all of these magic items that would just be great if we were able to handle. And they are just fundamentally not a to-do. They're a wish list item. So I think that that's important. That will help simplify your life a lot if you understand how to identify the difference between a wish list item and a to-do list item. So that's one of the big tripping points that I see that could help simplify. And then the other thing, I talked a little bit earlier about how to say like the importance of saying no if something isn't a yes, like if it's not something that you really want to be doing, the importance of saying no. For me and a lot of women in particular, it's hard to say no. Like we feel just obligated to somebody to be there for them and show up for them. And that's us giving ourselves away for free. But part of what helps me be able to give myself away for free or not, what helps me say no is being clear on like having clear examples and language on how I can say no. So being prepared to say no essentially is what I'm saying, like helps me be able to say no more often when it doesn't actually serve me. And it's such an uncomfortable skill. It's such an uncomfortable conversation because I do just want to help everybody and say yes to everything, but that's just not practical. There are 24 hours in a day. So being prepared to say no and understanding how you can do it, I think is a life skill that can serve us as women specifically because we just kind of get walked all over without that skill.
We do. Well, as you said, it's hard to say no. And if we're not, it's like a muscle or anything else that you are practicing. And as we kind of mentioned, other things that you need to practice, like in your marriage that are a muscle, it's that way of saying, how do I say no gracefully? How do I say not right now gracefully? Or that I love this idea. I'd like to be involved in it, but it's not going to work because of this.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So, like as an example, I'll say with one of my department heads that I volunteered significantly with back at my alma mater came to me and she was like, "Hey, I would love for you to speak in this class." And my response back was like, "Listen, I would love to. And it's just not a good time. Like I shared enthusiasm for her request. I explained why it wasn't a good time for me. I invited her to revisit the topic later. And then I had other recommendations of alternatives that she could consider since I wasn't available at the time. And by having that script down and knowing that with confidence that that was not something I should be taking on at that time, it made it easier for me to say thanks, but no thanks.
Right. And I think being really clear on, as you said before, of what, if I'm saying yes to this, if I'm saying yes to speaking, then what does that mean I'm saying no to? Because there's
Right.
only 24 hours and I only have a limited amount of space, energy, time. So if I'm taking on this thing, maybe I really want to do it and I'm okay with swapping it for something else, but to know that you're swapping, you're not
That's it.
on extra.
100%, Michelle. There are 24 hours in a day, and all of us get the same 24 hours. It's just how we choose to use them. And if you say yes to that, you're saying no to, you're inherently saying no to something else.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, I can see how so many people and so many moms and families are just helped by you and blessed because you get down to what is it really that you're prioritizing and does what you're doing match that? And are you happy where you are? Right?
Yeah. Well, I hope so. That's why you and I put so much into our businesses and the moms we help. It's certainly not because it's raking in the dough, but it's because we have an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. And that's pretty inspirational.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Where can people find you if they're like, okay, I really want to hear more about this, or I need to examine my whys? Where can they find you?
I would love if people connect with me on Instagram at Working Moms Movement. I also have what I call a micro podcast. It's where I unpack life's toughest questions for working moms. And I put out what I call snack size episodes. So you can find that too at the Life Management System for Working Moms.
I love that. Snack size episodes. That's what we all need, right? Because we're in the car, we're running from place to place. We
That's
need
it. So I said, like, I want something that somebody can digest on the way to the grocery store. Like, get in, get out. It's like, what's that? What's the 1-2 punch you need to get in, learn something real that you can marinate on for the next week, and then get out until the next week?
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much. So great to have you on today.
Michelle, it has been my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, friend, thanks for tuning in. Add the Life Management System podcast to your favorites so you don't miss my practical, snack sized tips to help you manage the mental load and create a life that works for you. If we're not yet connected on Instagram, come say hi at Working Moms Movement for daily inspiration. And if this is your third or 10th time listening, it's time you bless the small business. Share this episode with another working mom in the thick of it and take 30 seconds to rate and review. It helps more than you know. And if you're ready to go from surviving to thriving and make your day-to-day actually sustainable, email me at Courtney@workingmomsmovement.com. Mention this podcast for 25% off my coaching services. I also speak and host workshops for organizations that want to support working parents from the inside out. Reach out if you think yours is ready. This has been the Life Management System, your shortcut to less chaos and more calm. And here's your reminder to keep managing your life instead of letting it manage you.